Ignat's corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises. It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal, and Rovers have taken the lead. Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to our post-match live stream as we dissect Rovers' defeat to Bristol City this evening, 1-0 at Ashton Gate. Sometimes in football, you get what you deserve. Sometimes you don't get what you deserve. That is the wonderful game of football that we know and love. And to be honest, I'd got used to not discussing defeats on the live stream, so it'll be something for us to unpick and see, you know, where Rovers went really good tonight. I think there's agreement amongst the four of us, lots of positives, but of course we can unpick where it went wrong and where the game may have changed on one pivotal moment. So Rovers fans, please do give us your comments in the comments box as usual tonight. We will pick them up through the show and have a good old analysis of the game and see how well Rovers played tonight and get everyone's views. We've got Glenn with us on the panel tonight, who has substituted in for Alex. How are you doing, Glenn?
Evening, good, thank you, considering.
Yeah, indeed. And we've got Howard and Joe back, Rovers Analytics. Hi, Howard. Hi, Joe.
Hello there.
Hello. Rovers fans, if you are not following us on Twitter, we are Rovers_chat. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Rovers Chat. We are near 1,000 subscribers, but we are trying to get to 900 subscribers first. So if you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and help us towards the 1,000 mark. Before we start, of course, we are, though, kindly sponsored by 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thank you to 6yardsout.com as ever. I can see plenty of comments streaming into the comments box, which I will pick up in a moment. I will just let all of you give us your initial thoughts on the game. But Joe, I'm going to start with you if I can. Just sum up how you're feeling after the game and your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought we played quite well, to be honest. Not too worried about that game. It could have gone either way, and some of the reactionary stuff we've seen on Twitter is a bit over the top for me. I think some of the best football we've played this season came in the sections of, you know, the first and second half of that game. So yeah, not too disappointed really. Actually, quite upbeat about the way we've played.
Sure. And Howard, how are you feeling about the game tonight? What's your views?
Yeah, I'd basically copy what Joel said. The performance was very positive. We probably played better today than we did in the last 2 or 3 games, but we've come away with nothing. So it's frustrating in that regard. But again, it just is one of them games, isn't it? Where it was just whoever took the chance that came to them. We just never carved that clear-cut chance that they did in the end, where we just kind of had to settle for hopeful shots with Armstrong and players like that, and it just never really came for us, did it? But on another day, we could have won that game 1-0, and we'd have been all happy, praising the team for a brilliant performance away at a top 6 team. But it's just one of them days, isn't it? It's just how we bounce back from it, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's it. You know, you have those games in football that you win and lose. And, you know, teams like Millwall, for example, might feel a bit hard done by with, you know, this time last week, the last minute winner that we score. So absolutely, we're on the receiving end tonight. So, you know, that's what happens in football. And as Tony Mowbray will say, we'll dust ourselves down and we'll go on to the next one. Glenn, how are you feeling after the game? What's your views, you know, in summary on the performance?
I think, echo what the guys have said, it's frustrating more than anything. I'm not kind of downbeat about it. I think you look at, what's that, 1 defeat in 8. I'd have took that at the beginning of the 8 games. I think we played some good football and we've just been sucker punched, really. we've done it enough over recent weeks, and we've come away with the 3 points. It's swings and roundabouts, and it's not too disheartened. Looking forward to Saturday already.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go again. Just picking up some of the comments that we've had. Michael Pearson, one of those nights we could have played for another hour and not scored. Pleasing and devastating in equal measure. Yeah, that's a good way of summarising that, Michael. Absolutely. Alton Penkridge, never really at the races tonight. We'll unpick, how Rovers played in a bit more detail on the stream. Hunter's Army, unlucky to lose. Armstrong greedy, but can't blame him in the form he's in. He needs to learn from tonight. Players shouldn't be too downhearted, though. Very good performance. And then any other comments? No, no more at the moment. So yeah, I guess where I am on the game, guys, I've been to many an away game following Rovers where I've been stood in a cold away terrace on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and I've not even seen us have a shot, let alone the control and possession that we've particularly shown in that second half. And as I've said, football is a game of fine margins. Had we won that game 1-0, we're probably all talking about what a controlled and measured performance from Rovers. We've gone to a top six side and won 1-0. So football is fine margins, and we'll go into it in a bit more detail through the show. But Jeju comes on and changes that game for Bristol City, and that's why you have a squad, and that's why you have substitutes. And we've covered on our show before, we've had some great joy out of substitutes. Jacob Davenport, case in point, Saturday just gone. So it goes for you sometimes, it goes against you. But yeah, overall, it was a nice controlled performance from Rovers, I thought, and just a little bit unlucky. So Howard, I'm going to come to you first if I can, just to pick out players who have impressed you today, or anyone you want to focus on their performance today.
There was a lot of standout performances, I'd say, but someone I'd like to pick up on was Joe Rothwell again. Was brilliant in that midfield. It was basically just a carbon copy of what we've seen from Joe Rothwell all season. Just the confidence that he has in that midfield is mind blowing. He just breezes past players at times, doesn't he? He was picking passes. There was one that he put through the eye of a needle, like direct to Nyambe, who was in the penalty box, which is a brilliant ball. And I think it went to Elliott, whose shot was blocked by Sam Gallagher. But this is one of those things, isn't it? But yeah, it's refreshing to see. I think we've touched on it a bit in the pre-match, how much Joe Rothwell's come on this season. I think it's probably showed us a lot, but maybe he wasn't really a winger, and he never was, because we never got this type of quality out of him in that wide position. And I think in playing in that central midfield role maybe shows that we've maybe missed the best of Joe Rothwell so far, while still seeing a lot of positives from him in the past. But yeah, there was a lot of good performances, but again, it's just frustrating things, isn't it? He had the final pass a lot, Joe Rothwell, but it was just after it, weren't it? We just never seemed to just get that clear-cut chance, and it's just frustrating in that regard.
And that's a really nice segue for me, actually, Howard. On clear-cut chances, Joe, I know that you've got something around some of the expected goals and some of the play from tonight, haven't you? So did you just want to talk us through that and break down the performance a little bit for us?
Yeah, I mean, so expected goals tonight, as you can see, was 1.43 to them, and it's just being hidden there by the scrolling at the bottom. But it was tight. It was really, it could have gone either way. It wasn't a game where there's been a few comments, we never look like scoring. I mean, really? I thought we looked like scoring quite often. I thought, I just can't agree with it. I think it's too reactionary to say that we never look like scoring, and if we played all week, we wouldn't have scored. I thought that we played well. I thought that we spread the ball around and that we made some really attacking moves into that box. And I think another 5 minutes and we might have nicked a goal. We were unlucky not to get a penalty for handball at the end. Yes, a lot of our shots came from range, but that's the way they forced it. And, you can see there, most of the shots have come from well outside the box, but we still had some chances and we limited their chances as well to not too many. And for an away game, I don't think we played too badly. Alton Penkridge saying never really at the races. I think we were the better side. I don't think we were just at the races. I think we were ahead in that race for most of the game. I think it's perhaps a slightly reactionary view to take that we weren't good enough. Warren Selby there. we played well. If we'd have nicked that game and won it 1-0, we'd all be sat here delighted. We've just picked up 7 points in our last 3 games, not playing particularly well and managing to get a bit of luck on our side. Millwall, for example, and then the red card at Brentford, and we all praised them then despite not playing well. Well, I thought we played really well tonight and just didn't get the result to follow suit. Easily the better side. I mean, most of the data here shows that, and you can see it for yourself when you watch the game. We had more of the ball, and we had more of the ball in attacking areas, and we weren't committing too many fouls, and we didn't come away with any injuries, and in general, it wasn't a bad night. I agree with Sean Fox. I don't think we were good enough to win the game, but we definitely deserved the draw out of it. And to say, we didn't ever look like scoring, I think that's way too negative. I thought we were all right.
And Glenn, if I come on to you, I think possibly the frustration for Rovers fans, and we're probably all in this boat as well. We're so desperate to break into that top 6, aren't we? And we've had those opportunities over the last year or so. We want this squad to be rewarded for clearly the hard work that they're putting in and the quality that they've got. We want to see them make that stride into the top 6. And it is another opportunity tonight where, had we won with Brentford drawing, we would have gone into that top 6. So it's just, we're impatient as fans, aren't we? We just want it now. We want to be in that top 6, don't we?
I think so, yeah. I think, as I said before, I'm not too downhearted with today's result. I think, had we not beaten Millwall, then the question of, it's the bottle in the top 6 side of things. I think you go away to Brentford, you get that point, and then I say we just sucker punch tonight, and it's a long season. You look at our squad at the minute and the number of injuries we've got out. You could build a second 11 from the players we've got out injured at the minute. You've got those players to come back, and we're still pushing for the top 6. I think that's massively positive. I think, again, at the end of the game tonight, you've got a lot of youngsters on that pitch. You've got Niambe, you've got Buckley, you've got Davenport, still only a young lad. You've got a lot of youth in there that's still got a gel. It's every week seems to be a different 11 because of the injuries. I mean, for me, it's positive still. A lot of people are, it's top 6. We've hit the glass ceiling again, but I don't think we're at that point yet. I think it's December. There's a long way to go yet. There's a lot of fixtures to come, and stay positive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because of the result and the way it's gone and the fact that we've not broken into that top 6, I can see that in the comments. Again, I think fans are pretty divided about how they're feeling tonight on the performance. FM Works, we was the better side. Andy Watson, a lot of outcome bias in the reaction tonight. Warren Selby, we have more of the ball most games, didn't do a lot with it. Michael Pearson, pleasing performance for me. 1 team minute since the 20th minute. Henry Bolton, 22, unpopular opinion. We didn't play well, never looked to fret. Hunter's Army, typical Rovers fans, to lose a game and instantly look for something or someone to blame. Clubs lose games and 1 in 8 is pretty good. Ryan Lambert, I don't see the obsession with the top 6 at this stage of the season. And then just to follow that up, it's around March that I'll be paying more attention to 6th position. I presume that means so much can change in between. And then Oliver Parfit, as long as this is a blip and not the start of something bad. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of context that we've got to bring into it, haven't we? And I do just grab onto the fact that on the whole, we are going away to some good sides. Yes, we've lost to Watford. Yes, we've lost to Bournemouth. Yes, we've lost to Bristol City. On paper, that looks bad. And Swansea as well. Swansea performance, I take, that's a bad day at the office for Rovers away at Swansea. But Watford, Bournemouth and Bristol City, we've played well. We've had good spell in those games. And, I think certainly Watford on another game, that could go a different way if Armstrong scores his penalty. And tonight it's on the knife edge of Jeju. So I'm not going to overreact too much. We're seeing some really pleasing things. And again, I just take people back to some of those away performances that we have had over the years. There's been some shockers. So I'm not going to get too agitated at this point in time. Certainly not. And I can see some real good signs in this squad, particularly possession of the football. It's nice to see a Rovers team have possession of the football. Howard, a man who's going to get a lot of focus tonight is Adam Armstrong. Sky Sports did make the joke that is that the most shots that anyone's had in a game. He had 9 shots, and Joe's map that he brought up of the expected goals, a lot of his shots were on his left foot tonight, which was a bit of a shame. What were your views on Armstrong tonight? Did you want to see him pass a bit more, or do you think he was under some instruction to get those shots away, particularly from outside the box tonight?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. probably say that if that probably is true, that maybe he was told, because there was a chance, right? Well, not was really a chance, was it? But it was about 5 minutes in when he tried to do what he did away at Cardiff last season and lobbed the goal. It never really worked. It was a bit out of nowhere. He didn't have to do it. He wasn't particularly that far off his line, but I don't know. It was, in terms of him taking the shots on his left foot, that they were a little bit. Yeah, I kind of got the impression that he was maybe trying to force it a little bit too much with his left foot, because you in them. There was one in particular where Gallagher was free on the other side, and he picked up the ball from an Elliott pass, but his first touch had forced him too far out wide, so it meant he couldn't get the pass across. And he, instead of still looking up and maybe looking to like restart the attack in a way, or maybe just look for a safer option like a Rothwell, he just cut in and took a shot on his left, and it was just a bit rash. It didn't really help in any way, but I don't particularly blame him too much for taking the shots. When someone's on that type of form, you're gonna be confident in your abilities, aren't you? And taking shots from the edge of the box and shots from 50 yards out. He's just that type of player, isn't it? And you can't really fault him for that. I mean, we've not had many players like it, really, have we, over the past 10 years who have that type of confidence?
Yeah, that's it. And I think as top goal scorer in the division, or joint top goal scorer, if he's not having some of those shots and being selfish, then you're asking questions about why. And I think, Glenn, you said it in our private Rovers chat that there have been games before, haven't there, where we're screaming for someone to have a shot. So, what did you make of the Armstrong performance tonight?
Yeah, I think sort of first off, you can't begrudge him taking the shots on because of his confidence at the minute, sky high. And I think the more the game went on, you can see he's getting a bit frustrated. Some of the other players are getting a bit frustrated. As I mentioned in the chat, it's the amount of times I've watched Rovers and we've passed it around 20 yards out. We've gone sideways, back to the middle, back out wide again. And all you're thinking is, someone just have a pop. You never know what's going to happen. So I'll never kind of criticise a player for doing that. What I will say is I think in the last couple of years, Armstrong, when he has scored some very good goals, you'll see him line up to shoot and kind of take that split second, shift his body, and then get the shot off. I felt tonight he was a bit more kind of snatchy at some shots, and there were a few where there were better options, but the form he's in, he's got to take them on, and he wasn't so far. There was a shot early on that the keeper spills, so straight away as a striker, you'd be thinking, hold on, he's got greasy gloves, is the ball going to drop out? Can we jump on that? And maybe that was the thinking, but if one of them flies in the top corner, it's take a shot every time, isn't it? It's you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle.
That's it. And just to pick up some of the comments here that we've had coming in, Hunter's Army, Armour obviously been encouraged to do what he did tonight, which I can't blame, but there is such a thing as overdoing it. Can't blame him though, although could tell a few of our players getting frustrated. And then Ryan Lambert, there wasn't many of Armour's shots where I thought there was a player in a better position. And then just to pick up, just to go back onto the frustration with tonight's result and the glass ceiling around the top six. Jay Metcalf, I understand what you're all saying. And yes, we were the better side. But like I said, if you can't win, don't lose it. That's the difference between us and the top six, unfortunately. And then Riz, come on, hands up. We all saw this coming as soon as Armstrong missed all those chances. It's certainly not the end of the world, but I would like us to beat a top six side for once. And I think, that's where, as fans, we need to accept. The players know this. They know that there's been those opportunities to break into the top six, and they've spoken about that publicly. And I'm sure they are disappointed with the result tonight, and they will share the same frustrations that we have. But my overwhelming feeling is that I'm seeing enough in this Rovers side with the types of performances that we've had this season, tonight's included, with the possession of the football, hand on heart, I can see that this side is going to win games of football. And tonight we've not got the rub of the green. And Jeju's come on, scored that goal. The game's 1-0. It could easily have been 0-0. And we're sat there thinking, draw at Brentford, draw at Bristol City, not bad. So I'm just going to balance things out in context in that regard. Joe, I'm just going to come on to another player who did have a very good game today. Harvey Elliott, superlatives for this man just grow and grow. But I think he took his performance to another level for Rovers tonight, didn't he? Particularly with some of that vision and some of the weight of passing that he had.
Yeah, 100% himself and Rothwell, obviously, who's already got a mention. If you could say anything to them, you'd say just keep doing what you're doing. Because they did it all right tonight. There was 3 in that first half that got played in behind. And they're just brilliant balls, just incredible stuff. I think by full time, Harvey Elliott had 7 shot assists, where he was creating 7 shots in a game from his passing, which is just incredible for one player. So I'm getting frustrated myself, really, in general, with the reaction to tonight's game. You know, Bristol City are sat 6th now on 30 points. So, you know, when people say we've got to beat teams like that, I don't really get it, because teams like Bristol City are clearly very good. I thought that they were well structured. I thought they defended fairly well. I think they were definitely better second half than they were first. I think we got quite a bit more in behind using Harvey Elliott. And I think when Harvey Elliott had to move away from that right-hand side and come over to the left and come central, we probably kind of lost a little bit of threat going forward. When he comes in off the right, we look really dangerous. So yeah, Harvey Elliott played well, but there's not many people that didn't, really.
And Harvey Elliott is getting some good comments tonight. FM Works. Harvey Elliott is trending on Twitter with that performance. Hunter's Army, our midfield has been our best midfield since we got relegated from the Prem, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so with the options that we've got, Hunters. Options all over, and with Dak and Travis to come back as well, it's pretty good. And then Warren Selby, Harvey Elliott was top class tonight, hardly putting a pass wrong. That's what's most frustrating. And then just to address Ryan Lambert's point here, at what point does playing well and continuing not to pick up points become concerning? Happened a few times already this season. So I think I'll just say a couple of things, Ryan, in response to that. I think become concerning. I'm not concerned at this moment in time because there's a lot of football to be played. However, we know that ultimately come the end of the season, if we're 4 points off the playoffs or 5 points off the playoffs, we can probably look at games like Watford away and Bournemouth away and games like that, where that's the difference between us and them in the top 6. So as the season shakes out, that's when we probably analyse it. But am I concerned at this moment in time? No, because of the way that we're playing in general, give or take a couple of poorer performances against Swansea and Nottingham Forest. And then just happened a few times already this season. You know, we've robbed Barnsley and Millwall, if we're being fair. You know, so that's 4 points that we've gained in those games. So I do take the rough with the smooth in that regard. And sometimes you play bad and win, and sometimes you play well and don't. And that does balance itself out in a season. Howard, I know that you like Harvey Elliott as a footballer. Were you impressed with his performance tonight as well?
Yeah, it was. It's mind blowing, isn't it? The fact that he's 3 years younger than me and he's that good. It's I don't know. It just when we signed him, I just had you get them worries a little bit, don't you? You think, oh, is he ready? He's never really had first team football, but my God, it makes you wonder why he hasn't, doesn't it? I mean, I look at Harvey Elliott for Rovers. I wouldn't think he'd look at a place in Liverpool's team, really. I watch Liverpool play with players like Minamino and think he's nothing special. I'd take Harvey Elliott over him. And I think we're incredibly lucky to have a player like that. And it's an opportunity we can't waste, because it's kind of, you look at teams that have gone up over the last few years, or teams that have been in there around. They've had the Mason Mounts, the Tammy Abrahams, who have all the players that have come down the division on loan and made that impact and taken a team to that next level. And I think that Harvey Elliott's done that for us. I mean, how many chances did he create today? Like 3 or 4. It was brilliant at times, weren't it? Like there was one right at the beginning. I think it was the one I've already referenced with Gallagher, and he just does this first time pass, and the defender's just completely on his heels. It completely sends him. It's just brilliant. And yeah, he's a fantastic footballer, and I have no doubt in my mind that in the coming years he'll be featuring for England. He'll be featuring for Liverpool. He's certainly got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah. Henry Bolton, 22. Harvey Elliott, a top player who could be key. And then Andy Watson, the touch technique, head-up style, we just need more on his wavelength. What a player he's going to be. So Rovers fans, I'm going to ask you a question. If he carries on the way that he's playing, Harvey Elliott, I think he's proven to Jurgen Klopp that physically he's up for playing a game of football at a top level. So do you expect him to feature in Liverpool's squad next season if he carries on in the vein that he has, particularly with the likes of Minamino, as Howard says? Can you see Klopp just having this one season where Elliott's loaned and that's it? He features in their squad next season. So let us know what you think. I think he will. I think he'll be in there. I think there's been 18, 19-year-olds for Liverpool in the past that have done well. I can see it if Elliott carries on like this. I really can. So, Glenn, I'm going to come to you. Derek Williams came back into the side today, and there was probably a little, Lenihan suspended. Should he be playing? Should he be not? But I wish I had a party streamer or something just to go or something like that. No injuries, and Derek Williams got through that game. So, how did you think the Ayala-Williams partnership looked tonight?
There's a couple of hairy moments with Kaminsky, I think, where I think Williams is leaving the ball, Kaminsky's leaving the ball, and you think someone just get rid of it. But I thought they did all right. I think it affected the game when they brought Jeju on and they went a bit more direct, a bit more physical. And I think if you've played a different way and all of a sudden that switch is flicked and all it's big balls in the box, it is a challenge. And I think it did take us maybe a little bit too long to kind of respond to that. I thought they did well at the back. I can't really remember too many mistakes from them, apart from the hairy moments. But I think they did all right. I think to say that Williams hasn't played for a few weeks and he's come straight back in, he's played 90 minutes, he's not really looked out of place or off the pace. I think he looked good. I think Ayala, there's just something, he's a bit of a no-nonsense centre-half in there. There's something about that I like. The ball gets stuck in his legs, it drops out, and he's the first one to put a foot through it. I do like that. Bit of no-nonsense from time to time. But I thought they did all right.
Yeah. So I'm going to take us into the talking points on the game then. We'll just chronologically go through the game again and pick up the big talking points. So first half, 0-0 at half-time, but I think Rovers grew into the game, didn't they, Joe? We had a couple of chances from Adam Armstrong, and I think if Elliott's pass is half a metre or just shy of a yard, just towards Armstrong, he probably takes that ball round Daniel Bentley, doesn't he, and slots it away. It was just enough for Bentley to make that save in the first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he gets the ball beyond him. It's a penalty. He needed to go down more dramatically. When you watch it back, it's a penalty. He's nowhere near the ball, the goalkeeper. But, that's the fine margins in a game. It's a great ball. Unlucky from Armstrong, unlucky for Elliott. We get unlucky in general tonight, and that's the main message, I think, with almost everything. Just little things that didn't fall our way, but that's just the way it goes. It's 4-1 our way for the last 3 games, and some games it doesn't fall your way. I think most people seem to recognise that that's just the way it was tonight, and some things I do agree with. I think we did lack a little bit of attacking firepower off the bench. There was only really Dolan to bring on, and who came on that was ever going to kind of change things up in that final third. So perhaps a little bit of a lack of competition there up in those top areas. And I do actually think that Gallagher came off a little early as well. I think we could have left him on a little longer, and maybe, would have had a little bit more of an outlet towards the end. But in general, it's just a game, isn't it? They're sixth in the table now, 30 points. You can't expect to beat teams like that when they're playing well, and when you're playing well, it's just one of those. So, yeah, Elliott, Armstrong, you can't fault them. 14 goals this season. Are we really going to sit here and criticise Adam Armstrong? That's unfair. So I'm glad that we're not doing, and I'm glad that most people are taking the long-term view on this, that we played all right and we keep playing all right. Yeah.
And Howard, I think one of our biggest chances actually was the Daniel Ayala header from the corner. I think he's possibly got to do better with that, and that was a real clear-cut chance. And I think there was another one that came off Gallagher and then one of their defenders and into the arms of Bentley or something like that. Did it feel like we'd lost our chance a little bit midway through that second half to take that 1-0 lead, reward our good play in the second half, and like we did to Brentford on Saturday, we left ourselves exposed for Bristol City to change that game in the way that they did?
Yeah, quite possibly. The Ayala chance was a big one, weren't it? He's someone that I've always known over his time in this league, and since we've signed him, like it's been mentioned by Middlesbrough fans, that he's always been in the right areas for set pieces. He's always managed to nick a goal. He's always been that type of defender, but it was a poor header, really. He has to at least get it on target, doesn't he? If it doesn't go in, it doesn't go in. But yeah, it was just one of them things, weren't it? When you saw him just nod that header wide, and what was it, about the 60th, 65th minute, you think, oh God, it's not one of them days, is it? And there was, of course, the Harvey Elliott one that you referenced as well, when it was blocked by Gallagher. It's just he never really seemed to get the best of connection on the Harvey Elliott, and because it went straight down the goalkeeper's throat, really, and just that's where Gallagher was for some reason. It hit him. It was just again, it just another day we take them chances and we come away with the win, and we're all, we're happy. We're sixth in the league, and we're all so positive. It's just one of them days, isn't it? But the thing is, we can't let this carry on. We do need to start picking up the points in these type of games. It is a little bit. It's not worrying. It's just annoying. But it'll get worrying if it carries on by March or February, around that time. So yeah, I think again we just need to move on to Saturday, don't we? I don't think Norwich are particularly the greatest team in the world. Great wins like Bristol City did against us today, and it just hopefully we can bounce back and put a few wrongs right.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to put things into context. Many a Rovers side, I think, particularly under Gary Bowyer, we could label stuff at Rovers, which is we struggle to turn draws into wins. And we've not, the last couple of games before this, Barnsley and Millwall, we did turn draws into wins and got those points. And tonight we've not done that. So there is that element of frustration there, isn't there? Joe, I'm going to come to you in a moment because there is a question for you, but it actually also addresses one of the questions I was going to ask Glenn. So it's from Jay Metcalf. This one's for Joe, but I'm going to start with Glenn. Me personally, I could see the game starting to change when Jeju came on. So I'm just going to focus on that bit first, Glenn. You and I were chatting before we went live on this stream that Jeju, first and foremost, is the type of striker who causes us problems. And I noticed that they changed as soon as Jeju came on. So after all those chances and control that we spoke about, they literally went three up front with Chris Martin, Jeju and Nocky Wells and started to occupy us in different ways. Did you notice that shift in the game when Jeju came on and start to fear that, they might nick this as well?
Yeah, I think as soon as he came on, I turned and I said he always has a good game against us, this lad. I think it was a couple of seasons ago where he turned us over, he scored against us and he looked a threat then. You could just see he came on, they went a bit more direct. And I think he'd barely been on the pitch a couple of minutes and he gets the flick on to Nocky Wells at the back post, who should really do a little bit better with it. But yeah, they went a bit more, they changed it up a level. And I think we didn't really have the capacity to do that tonight. We mentioned about not really having the firepower of the strikers on the bench to do that. Some teams will change and go more direct with the likes of Jeju to bring the players around him into play. We don't seem to have that at the minute. I think Gallagher was that option, but he's been too valuable out wide. I think someone's mentioned in the comments we missed Brereton tonight, and I think we did. There was a couple of times in the second half where you're screaming for him to get the ball and maybe create something. We seem to change things and kind of go a bit more, go wider, a bit more attacking wingers, that side of play. Whereas, Jeju came on and he completely turned the game on its head to a degree. He gave him that outlet, that long ball, and as I mentioned before, we struggled to kind of react to that at first, and he did win a couple of headers.
Yeah, I noticed it big time. They just seemed to be up the pitch a bit higher and occupying us in those different areas. I noticed a real change in the game, and then I was literally about to message in our group chat, and then he scored, and it's like great. Joe, so if we come on to the question then for you that's in this as well, which Dan's just taken off the screen. Here it is. Do you think that... Yeah, there we go. Do you think Mowbray should have made changes sooner? So should he have done it before the Jeju sub? What's your views on the changes that he made and how we could have changed that up? What's your thoughts?
I think it's the flip side for me. I think we should have changed less. I think we probably maybe made subs for the sake of legs and things like that. I thought we should have kept the players that we brought on for longer and perhaps not tinkered too much. I think in hindsight, he would have wanted Gallagher on the pitch for those last few minutes, really. So, yeah, I would have changed less than what we did change and not tinkered too much because I think we were heading in the right direction for a draw or nicking a win, really. I think perhaps we reacted a little bit too heavily to their changes. And then, obviously, to answer the comment before that, I disagree. We should be beating these kinds of teams if we wish to join them in the top six. I mean, Bristol City lost at home to Birmingham on Saturday, and teams lose games. Brentford have picked up 2 points in a week with 2 home games. They've drawn 0-0 tonight. They somehow only got a draw out of us. Are their fans going to be disappointed and saying, we've got to be beating these teams if we want to get into the top six? Because I think most of us would be jealous of a Brentford or a Bristol City right now. So it's all just, it's very game by game. I think, they've won tonight, but they lost 1-0 at the weekend to a Birmingham side that have struggled so far this season. So, yeah, I think in general, let's just wait and see. We talked about this 12-game run, didn't we? Which I think we'll touch on, Ryan, I'm sure, especially match for the next game, and kind of have a little bit of look where we're up to. I think we're well on track to hit the target for this 12-game run that we all kind of set and said, this is what I think we should and could get. So in general, I'm pretty optimistic. And yeah, to answer that question, I think Mowbray would probably say, in hindsight, he would have made less changes.
And with what you said there, Joe, I think this is ultimately where Mowbray and Rovers can't win, because you're right. We all said it before the Luton game. It was, I think, most of the comments we had in the box was about 24 points from 12 games. Now, if you're suggesting a points total of 24, you're going to be losing a couple of games in there. You're allowing that margin for error. What side goes on a 12-game unbeaten run? Not many. So I think where we can't win is, well, who's the best sides to beat? Is it better to beat Bristol City, Norwich and Brentford? Or are we slagging the side off if we lose to Barnsley or lose to Millwall? You know, we can't win in some regards. So I think, yeah, there's a little margin of error in there for losing. I think the real frustration, isn't it, is that we've lost the game. Had it been 0-0 and we'd pegged Bristol City back and they've not got further away from us and we've not missed that opportunity to go in the top six, there's probably less of a reaction tonight. But the fact they've won and we've missed that opportunity, you know, it's probably easy to forget that context of that 24, 25 points that we were talking about those games ago. Howard, so one thing that Sky Sports didn't really focus on, but it seems to be doing the rounds on Twitter, is this handball. I don't know if it's Jack Hunt or one of the players for Bristol City. Now, I've seen a few things on Twitter and it does look like his arm comes out and then goes back in again. Could Rovers have had a penalty? I think it came after. Did it come after their goal or was it before their goal? You know, that's a potentially after their goal, was it? Yeah, so that's potentially a big talking point, Howard, isn't it? That we could have had a penalty. And do you think we should have had a penalty based on what you've seen? Yeah, quite possibly. I've seen, saw the replay on Twitter. I think someone shared it, and it probably in the Premier League is a penalty, but I don't know. I don't know about you, but I feel a bit wrong complaining about a handball considering what happened last week. But I suppose, yeah, it is. It's just one of them things, isn't it? It is a handball, but we can't be holding on to that for too often. I think, because especially like I've just mentioned, considering what happened last Wednesday, it seems a bit odd, doesn't it, that we're complaining about a handball when we had 3 that weren't given last Wednesday. But yeah, another day it could have been given, but I'm not too fussed, to be honest. It's just one of them things, isn't it? I think you're absolutely right, Howard. And if there's going to be a game where a handball's not given, I'd prefer it weirdly to be in a game like this where we've already gone 1-0 down. If that's the one where we're not getting it, then fine. You know, I want it given in another game that's 0-0 and we've got the chance for the 3 points. So I think you're spot on with that, Howard. Glenn, I'm just going to pick up a point in the comments here from, Andy said, Millwall. Yeah, fair play, Andy. Glenn, I'm going to pick up a comment from Riz. Do we have a plan B? I'm not sure we do. I don't count that thing where we go deeper and deeper as a plan B. I think, you know, we've touched on this with some of the things we've said. Dolan really was the only change that we could make today, wasn't it, in terms of an attacking sense? We've spoken about Brereton. We've spoken many a times about Bradley Dack. There's a comment about Joe Rothwell coming off, and Joe's obviously made the point that some of the changes maybe shouldn't have been made. Do you think Rovers do have a plan B? Or, to ask the question differently, was there no plan B available really for us today?
Yeah, I think you've kind of answered it for me there with the second part. I think we are struggling for a plan B just based on the numbers that we've got at the minute. I think you're starting Gallagher, you don't have the kind of battering ram type long ball off the bench. I think we'd all love to have seen Bradley Dack on the bench coming off today to change it, wouldn't we? I think that is the plan B. Once he's nearing match fitness, you imagine a tight game like that, just put him in there in that pivot and play off him and create some chances. I think that is going to be the plan B, at least to start with. But yeah, you bring Dolan on it, and he's very similar to Elliott, isn't he? When he's out wide, he's going to get the ball, he's going to try and beat a man. But it doesn't really change the style of play or how the opposition has to defend. I think the plan B is probably tuck Elliott inside a little bit and get him on the ball a little bit more. I think that's the plan B rather than it is more of the same but slightly different. But it is a little bit of a worry that we can't switch it up. And if a team is being quite resolute at the back, like they are, Jeju comes on and changes it. We kind of missed that a little bit. That kind of maybe. I don't know. I think in the past I'd have liked us to go more direct, and then if we'd gone more direct, I'd have said, "Why we're going more direct when we're better on the ball?" So it's kind of you can't win sometimes. It's
If we go back a few games, Luton, and then someone will have to remind me the game after Luton. We did have a plan B who came on and made an impact, and that's Sam Gallagher. When we had players available, Sam Gallagher came on and made a real impact, and that's what Bristol City have done today. They've been able to bring on Jeju as their plan B and mix it up. Tyrese Dolan coming up against big centre halves in the likes of Callas in the game that it is, it's not maybe the plan B that we've been used to. So I think, when you get Brereton back, when you get the likes of Bradley Dack back, we can mix it up a bit more. I think Sam Gallagher is our plan B. I think that's the long way round for us, isn't it? He's the one that we're going to go for that Jeju treatment with when you think about games that we've had previously. So I've failed once again to raise the fact that if you want to join us on the post-match stream, you absolutely can. So we had 2 guests after the game on Saturday who came and joined us, who we were very delighted to receive. We have got someone waiting in the wings for us who will be joining us soon. But Joe, I'm just going to come back to you before we do bring them in. Is there anything else about the game tonight and how it went that you feel we need to talk about? Or is it one of them you just kind of think, we've gone away, we've lost 1-0, it's happened, we move on to the next?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because we're now coming up against top of the league, Norwich, on Saturday, which again is a game that you can't expect to beat Norwich. They're one of the best teams in the division and they're top of the league for a reason. Despite their injuries as well, they'll have more players back. So my worry is that we go into Saturday, perhaps only get a draw, and then people start panicking. It's a long-term project, and we're looking at this 12-game run. And these are, tonight, obviously, which is out of the way now, and Saturday are 2 really tough fixtures. And then we've got some better games coming up. We've then got Rotherham, which you can be a bit more promising about, and I think what I'm worried about more than anything else is overreaction and instant reaction. We played well tonight, and I'm sure the lads will be raring and ready to go, really. We've got players to come back from injury, and, my concern more is that you wouldn't want the players to be knocked by tonight. You don't want a loss that wasn't perhaps deserved to knock any confidence. You don't want Joe Rothwell to stop making that run into the box that he made again tonight, the same one he made against Brentford. And you don't want your Tyrese Dolans and your Harvey Elliott's and your Adam Armstrongs to start getting frustrated. Because, we've scored 31 goals this season. One game where we don't score isn't the end of the world, and it's going to happen. So, yeah. I think we're ready for Andy, though, aren't we? So
I think we are, and I've still not got that magic graphic which Dan promised me. So, Dan, you're just going to have to, by the art of bring in our guest for us, Andy Watson, who can't stay away from the show, so we're going to have to get him an extra seat or something like that. Here he is.
Said I'm only allowed on late at night to stop scaring people. So
very good.
That's why I just keep popping on at 11:15 at night. So
nice for you to join us again, mate. What's your question and who's it for?
It's for you.
Oh, thanks.
Because I feel like you're always having to ask them, so I would save it. So no, we obviously Nyambi's been mentioned tonight as having a decent enough game. Rothwell, amazing, becoming a really important player for us. Both of those are out of contracts coming up soon. I don't know. I think Rothwell might have a +1 in his contract, but how much is that a concern for you, Ryan?
Nyambi or just contracts overall?
Overall.
Contracts is a huge worry for me. And I think Mowbray was quite honest, wasn't he, in the Lancs Telegraph in the week that we've probably not got the cash flow available to sort that situation out at the moment. And I think we're taking a huge gamble, actually, with the fact that we're just going to see where we end up, I guess, after the January transfer window and which players are talking to which clubs, which player have we potentially sold or not, and can we rectify those contract situations? So I think it's a huge gamble. And this is where Mowbray's man management of the squad and the rapport that he has with the players, can he convince them to stay when we're into like April, May, June time, and they might be being tapped up by a championship club saying, come and play for us, we'll pay you $5,000 more, or come in the Prem and sit on our bench. So I think it's a gamble, but it's a gamble that we cannot avoid, unfortunately. We've got one of the lowest revenues and turnovers in the championship. We have to cut our cloth accordingly. And we recently spent 12 million on Brereton and Gallagher, didn't we? So that catches up with you eventually, particularly when none of us are in the ground, and particularly when the ones that are in the ground only occupy a third of our stadium. So we are where we are, but it's a worry. It's a big worry, and I probably do expect us to lose some of them, unfortunately. And that squad depth will be eroded, won't it?
Yeah. I mean, Glenn, I know you as Mr. Positive, really. Is this even starting to turn that beard a little bit grey?
Not quite, not yet. It is a worry, though. Like you say, I hadn't realised how many players were coming to the end of their deals at the end of this season, and it's not the end of the season, is it? It's kind of January, because if you result to losing somebody at the end of the season, it's, well, do you cash in January, get a little bit of money for them? It's a concern. I think I'd love us to be in and around the top 6 in January, so you can kind of dangle that carrot and say,
yeah,
another 4 months. 4 months, if we make it to the top league, you've done a good job. If we don't, here's a gentleman's agreement and we'll let you go, kind of thing. And yeah, it is a concern, because the key players as well, like Niambe, your Dax, your kind of Rothwells, the kind of your spine of your team, and we are going to miss them. And it's took us a long time to build this kind of 2.0 with Mowbray, hasn't it? Where we've gone from the kind of team that got us back promoted to a team that's pushing again. It's almost ripping that up and starting again if you lose some of those key players.
Yeah, all the depth that we've kind of gotten, we've needed over the last few weeks, and that we're going to need for the rest of the season as well. And a lot of people, obviously, I think that starting 11 was really good tonight. And but there was no plan. There wasn't a lot of plan B. I know someone just asked in the questions there about the plan B. And obviously, Ryan, you're saying Sam Gallagher is our plan B, but that obviously only works if he's not on the pitch to start with.
Yeah.
And the fact that we still need that depth to come back, and we're just all patiently waiting. I saw a tweet, I think it was from Rovers Analytics actually, that had these like Travis 2 weeks and Dak 2 weeks, and you're just starting to salivate, almost thinking like, what happens when all these players are back? But the reality is that other players will then go, and I would love to see that full squad out there and see what we could do with it. Because to me, and the commentator on Sky mentioned it a few times, Don Goodman, that was on the expert analyzer. He was saying that Blackburn are one of the better sides in this division. He said it a few times. And I think we did see that. I think Joel's right in terms of the way that we played. I think it was positive in general. We just, I don't want to criticise Adam Armstrong because he's just an amazing forward. But for me, he was taking shots that shouldn't have been taken on tonight. And I know that was a point that was raised. But if you look at his XG, kind of where he's scoring his goals, as compared to last season, he was scoring a lot up from outside the box last season. But this season, it's in and around the 6-yard area and in the penalty area, because the team are given the chance to make those better chances for him. And he doesn't need to start like pelting them with the left foot from outside the box, in my opinion. So,
as much as I'm concerned about the contracts, Andy, we've got one beacon of hope, haven't we? And that's the academy. So we've got players who are coming through. And I just think, like the comments tonight, we all want to get into that top 6 and we all want to get promoted. If it doesn't happen, we're going to have to swallow the bitter pill. Some players might leave and we might have to start again, as Glenn says. And it might be a few seasons of 15th, 14th, 12th, wherever, whilst we blood these new youngsters in. But I spoke to that Brentford fan last week. I'd rather have a model that makes the club sustainable. If we're bringing players through the academy, if we're selling players on, if we're trading them, that is a sustainable model. We cannot have a model which is Venky's just plug £6 million into the club every month or every quarter or whatever it is. We need a different model. So that, I think, is what fans we will have to get used to. You know, we are going to lose some players, and we've been pretty fortunate, even since being relegated from the Prem. You know, we kept Jordan Rhodes for far too long. That wasn't sustainable. You know, we just kept offering him more wages. The only one we've really had to deal with and be sad about is Tom Kearney, isn't it? I think all the other transfers have probably been in the natural life cycle of the player. We're probably going to have to swallow a bit of pill in January, I think. I think one will go. I really do. And if it means that we get those others on contracts, then so be it.
Just before I go, 2 points I'd like to make on that is obviously Mowbray mentioned the word loyalty in that piece that you were referring to. I think we do have a loyal set of players.
Yes,
He has seemed to have fostered that togetherness in the squad, and you can kind of feel that. Even when we went behind, we did still kind of press for that winner tonight. We didn't just go. I remember the Wigan game, I think it was, when we went behind last season, quite late on, and we just never threatened, and they scored another one. So I think they have got that togetherness. I think we do have loyal players, and it'll be interesting to see how much that plays into the final bit of the season. And the recruitment has been, I think, much improved over the consecutive seasons now. And I think we're at the point now where Mowbray and Venus and the guys behind the scenes have built the club to a point that we can rely on our recruitment team to be able to recruit players of a good standard. Kaminsky I think is the archetypal example of that at the moment. So I don't mean to come on and bring a dark cloud on everybody. I think it is a worry, but the club will be here for far longer than these players will be, and that's the important thing.
It would be a bigger worry for me if we didn't have the likes of Nyambi, Rankin Costello, Lenihan, Travis, products coming through that youth academy. And we've got the next batch coming through, haven't we, with Wharton and Dan Pike and others. So we can see it. So it could be a bigger problem for us, but it is a concern because we're desperate for promotion. And we can see that this squad deserves at least to have a reckoning in the top 6, doesn't it? And I think that's where the frustration and the worry comes in.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Andy. Good to see you as ever.
Oh,
Here we go. We're going to do some.
Next time Dan allows me to come on, it'll probably be 11:15, like next week.
Christmas hat next time, please. In fact, we all need Christmas hats at one point.
Yeah, we'll be looking around this front room. We've got a few to choose from. So, yeah, absolutely. I'll go with that. No problem. Right, cheers, guys. Great show again, as always.
See you later, Andy.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, Andy.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Howard, I'm going to come to you then just for some of that discussion. Where are you on the contract situation and how anxious are you about what could happen in January and what could happen at the end of the season if the squad doesn't hit that top 6?
Yeah, I'm completely with what you said. I've come to the sad realisation that I do kind of think someone will leave in January. I'm a little bit worried as to who. I have no idea who it could be. I think there's a few possibilities, but if it meant that we could keep the Nyambes, the Rankin Costellos, the Holtbys, the Rothwells for another couple of years, I think sacrificing maybe like a Darrell Lenihan or someone like that for a decent fee could be a decent thing to do. Could be a sensible thing to do. But again, it's just we do have a lot to blood through, don't we? We have a lot of brilliant youngsters, and we can kind of. I mean, another thing as well is that we have to take into consideration a lot of these people that we're worried about are youngsters, aren't they? I mean, Rankin Costello, Nyambe, you've got Tyrese Dolan who's out next summer, and you've got a few other players like that. I mean, we might lose these players, and then all of a sudden it's Luke Brennan, Dan Pike, and Louis Thompson and players like that. And, we just need to keep that cycle going because I think whether we like it or not, we could end up coming into this position sort of similar to Brentford where they push on and buy good, cheap players and then sell them on for a considerable profit and kind of maintain that cash flow, if you will, and make sure that money comes in every summer and just kind of go into that never-ending cycle, if you know what I mean. I could definitely see that as a possibility. But yeah, it's certainly a little bit nervy. But we'll just have to see how we deal with it. I mean, I don't work for the club. I don't know these things, do I?
Well, I'm going to ask Rovers fans the questions. The club are in a really difficult position and this is unprecedented times with COVID and everything like that. We cannot detract from the fact that finances are tight and, Mowbray and Waggett have got a job to do. So Rovers fans, what would you be doing at this moment in time? Would you be resisting all offers to have a go at promotion and accept the fact that you could lose some players for cheaper fees and a lot of players potentially talking to clubs and we lose them regardless of what happens at the end of the season? Or do you swallow the bitter pill and speak to one of those members of the team who might have some Premier League interest or Championship interest and say, we're going to cash in on you because we've got contracts that we want to get people tied up for the good of the club. So let us know, Rovers fans, in the comments what you would do and how you feel as well, because I think it's not going to go away until we start tying people up to contracts. So we'll end the stream in about 5 minutes, though, Rovers fans, but let us know your views on that. Joe, what's your feeling on it? Because I think it is, with the positivity we've got in the club at the moment, a hell of a lot of positivity, and everything that's been done by Mowbray, by Wagger, and everything that's been done off the pitch as well. It is just that little tinge, isn't it, that you just don't want to see it unravel like a big thread because of something that they couldn't have predicted with COVID and, you know, us not being in the stadium and stuff like that. Where are you and what would you be doing?
I think when the right offer comes in for the right player, you've got to analyse it on a player-by-player basis, haven't you? You can't say no to certain offers, and you can say no to others, you know. And I think that's Mowbray's take as well, and Steve Waggett. So I'm glad that we've got sensible people at the helm. I think that will make those decisions. I don't think there'll be a huge kind of agenda from the owners to sell players, but you know, we can't become a club that never sells anybody in fear of upsetting the fans. Everybody sells players at some point. It's just the way football works. There's only really David Raya in recent years who's even been let go, and we've replaced him now in Thomas Kaminski. So I have faith in the European scouting. I know Brexit's going to have some implications there, but I think in general we've been getting recruitment right. So at some point, you know, we're going to have to reap those rewards. I mean, how much is Joe Rothwell worth now? He was signed for a very minimal fee at a younger age, definitely more than doubled in his value. How much is Adam Armstrong worth? Well, if he's worth 30 million, his value's increased tenfold. At some point, you've actually got to reap the rewards of those values. It's no good in 2 years' time saying, God, do you remember when Adam Armstrong was worth £30 million? And we're sat there at Christmas and he's got 3 in the season and he's no longer in this hot form. I mean, just look at Jordan Rhodes. We managed to sell him for 12 million and he scored what, like 5 or 6 goals since leaving the club. So, you know, we've got to cash in when the time's right. And as depressing as that can be for some people, everybody sells players. So it's just the way the world works.
And I think this is where actually this is a real balance for Mowbray, isn't it? Because it's that balance between building up that tight-knit squad and that team unity, but then actually football is a business and there is an element of you do need to trade players, you do need to bring income, and you might need to take one out to bring 2 in. You might need to sell one to get people on contracts. So it's a real difficult one, particularly for someone like Mowbray who really invests in the squad and really invests in that team morale and that team spirit. So as I say, this will rumble on, and certainly I can see it in the comments that it is dividing people, particularly about what they would do. So we will wrap up the stream there, I think. Disappointing result for Rovers tonight, but not without endeavour, not without quality. You know, on another day, we could potentially nick that game 1-0 ourselves, and we're having a different conversation. But hey, it's 1 defeat in 8. You know, let's put things into context. The games have been coming thick and fast. We've got quite a few players not in the squad at the moment. And yeah, maybe we've just lacked that little thing just to go a bit differently today. And that's something Mowbray's acknowledged in his post-match interview as well. But I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling good. I'm seeing a lot out of this Rovers side, which gives me a lot of confidence, and particularly some of those away performances, which are completely different to what we've had in some previous years. So let's remain positive. Let's see what we can do against Norwich. Let's see where we're at the turn of the year after that 12-game block. And yeah, that will probably dictate where we go from there. So thank you, Rovers fans, for joining us this evening and for interacting with us the way that you did. Howard, thank you for joining us tonight, mate. Good to have you on both.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, mate. Glenn, thank you for joining us again.
Pleasure as always. Thank you.
No worries. And Joe, thanks, mate, for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for hosting, Ryan.
No worries, no worries. And Rovers fans, if you are not following us on Twitter, we are Rovers_chat. Please subscribe as well to our YouTube channel, Rovers Chat, to stay up to date with all of our content. We have now just finished day 9 of the 12 days of Rovers Chat. We are on to day 10 tomorrow. And I think it's Saturday or Sunday, day 12 finishes. I can't do the maths. It's past 11 o'clock. So one of you will have to do the maths when day 12 is. But you're going to have to subscribe to find out what the videos are. So hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date with all of our content. And yes, of course, please join us pre-match for our live stream before the Norwich game on Saturday. So have a good rest of the 55 minutes, which are available of this evening. And if you are abroad, however many hours are left in your current day. Thank you for joining us. And we will finish with our sponsor message from 6yardsout.com. Bye all.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.